Oh boy, we are live. What's today? What the heck is today anyway? Today is Thursday, April 26th. It is currently like 80 degrees out in South Florida. So it's a pretty good day. Thursday is one of those days where it's like it's not Friday, so you can't really get that excited, but then it is kind of like it's close to Friday, so you can kind of get a little excited and prepared for the weekend. But I don't know. I like Thursdays. Plus, my class schedule on Thursdays is dumb easy. I have one class from like 3:30 to like 4:45, but we always get out early, like an hour, not an hour early, sorry, like 15 to 20 minutes early. So I'm psyched. Got out of class early today. Want to do a podcast, so we're gonna do a podcast. Okay. Let's hop right into it. I think today's the NFL draft, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's the NFL draft. I believe it's NFL draft. But and my favorite team is the Patriots. So if you're a Patriots fan, I love you. I love you if you're a Patriots fan. You know the good team. I love when everybody hates on the Patriots too, like every other sports fan, because it's kind of like I get it. Like if you're not the best, you're a sore loser usually. And it sucks when you spend millions of dollars on players and the same outcome happens every year when you play the same team. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel bad. I feel bad for the Jets. They spend so much money. The Bills, they spend so much money. And then the Dolphins, any team. You spend all this money, and year after year, you just get your ass kicked by a team that has nothing but fucking cheese balls off the sidewalk of Boston, okay? We have all of our star players have been no-namers pretty much in college. Maybe every few years we'll get like a good player that was like pretty good in college or whatever, but it doesn't happen very often. We kind of just walk down the streets and say, "Hey, you played college football? All right, here's your contract." Like that's pretty much what we do. So happens with a lot of players on the Patriots, but I like that. And that just shows a great team from a good team. A good team, yeah, you can have a good team. You can have franchise players. You can have these good athletes. And you're going to be good, obviously. But then it takes a great team to have a system set up like the Patriots where you can almost take anybody. They don't even have, some of the players I don't even think have played D1 football. Some of them I think have played D2 or really, really shitty D1, which is basically really good D2. So you can almost say that it's D2 football. We're able to take these no-name players that nobody would even consider even looking at, not even as a practice player. We're able to take them and say and train them and put them in a system that works so good that we're going to the Super Bowl every year. I'm calling it right now on this podcast. Patriots are going to be playing in the Super Bowl next year. Let's see who we're going to be playing, though. I got to think real quick. I don't even know who we're going to be playing. I think we're going to be playing maybe the Vikings next year in the Super Bowl. And the Patriots will win. And then I'm not sure if Brady will retire, but I'm calling it right now on this podcast. Next year, we're going to be playing the Vikings in the Super Bowl, and we're going to win. End of discussion. But, yeah, the draft day is today. I don't know. Patriots probably pick up, a few no-namers. My personal opinion, I think we're going to need some defensive linemen and just more on the defense. I mean, when you have Brady and even moderately good wide receivers, you have the best offense in the league. But we don't have a Tom Brady on the defense, so we really need pretty good players on the defense to make a good defensive core and to have those good, just an overall good defense. But we'll see. We'll see who they pick up. But you know what's fucking crazy? I saw the news the other day, and I guess they caught this guy called the Golden State Killer, I think is his name. And I kind of watched like a video on it because I was like, oh, it's just like another school shooting or something, or like another mass shooting. Um, and then I looked into it, and this motherfucker. If you don't know who the Golden State Killer is, let me see if I can bring it up here. Let's see if I can bring it up. I read it or watched it the other day. It's fucked up. There's some sick fuckers in this world. Who became blah blah blah. Come on, where is it? Alright, how about this? Alright. So, well, they took a man into custody. I'm not sure if he's the actual Golden State Killer, but I know that they have somebody that they think. They said that his DNA matched up or something, but I don't know. So pretty much, if you don't know who the Golden State Killer is, it's this is what Wikipedia says. Yeah, you can't really trust Wikipedia, but this is the best site I can find. It says, quote, "The Golden State Killer is a serial killer, serial rapist, and a serial burglar who committed 50 rapes in Northern California during the mid-70s and murdered 12 people in Southern California from 1979 through 1986. That's fucked up. They found the man that they think. Authorities announced the arrest of a suspect, 72-year-old Joseph James D'Angelo, a former police officer, and on six counts of first-degree murder on DNA evidence. Fuck. And there was a $50,000 reward for his capture. Shit. That's fucked up, man. There are some fucked people in this world. That is so messed up. Like, you gotta be I'm like almost fascinated with how these creepy fuckers think. Like, what needs to go through your mind to kill somebody or to rape somebody or even to create to be a burglar? Burglar. Is that how you say it? Burglar? To break into people's houses, kill them, and rape them. You have to be fucked up in the head. Anyway, he's named the Golden State Killer, obviously because it's California's the Golden State. It looks like he raped a shit ton of people in California, and committed all of his murders in Southern California. Wow. I mean, I can't even like when I saw that the other day or watched the video, I was like, "Holy shit! Who are these people?" And the crazy part of it all is that there's people out there that are either on the brink of doing something like this, or they're either on the brink of doing something like this, or have already done something and haven't been caught yet. So like the fucked up part is you could be walking past like I'm sure multiple people knew, like his neighbors said that he was like a weird guy and whatever. But think about like, you know, this guy had to go to the grocery store. He had to interact with people, and those people had no idea of like what this guy has done. And that's the crazy fucking part about it. Like, you just don't know anything. And like for him, like that's just mind-boggling to me. Like we both could have talked to serial killers by now. Who the hell knows? You know, who the hell knows? And that's just so messed up. How like you just don't know, and that's like the weird, eerie part about it. You don't know you don't know if the guy next to you shot somebody last month. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if the old creepy guy in the corner raped anybody 6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And that's just kind of the messed up part that really gets me about these people, especially the ones like this where they don't find them for like decades, and so these people are just trying to like blend in and be like a normal person, and they have this like extremely dark past behind them. And it's just so messed up, dude. But yeah, there's people like this everywhere. I think another famous one is like I think Jeffrey Dahmer was his name. A lot of these people are so fucked up mentally that like it's just I don't know. It's like just it's crazy to think about how somebody is so sick-minded to do some dumb shit like this. Even with a a school shooter or anything, they're the same fucking type of people. Like you got to be so messed up in the head or have such a bad childhood to go around and just kill people for pretty much fun, pretty much for fun, or to you have an addiction to like seeing people suffer. It's just so messed up and ruthless. This world is fucked up. This world is fucked up, and there's a lot of fucked up people in this world. And the bad part is we don't know who they are or where they live or anything. We don't know anything. And that's just a bad part. But I don't know. I wonder. I did see the other day too that the Florida school shooter said that he would plead guilty if he could avoid the death penalty. And in my opinion, he's obviously guilty. There's no judging that. Like he doesn't need to prove that. He doesn't need to say that he's guilty. They have more than enough evidence to prove him fucking guilty anyway. But in my opinion, I think he deserves the death penalty, and I think that if you take somebody's life, you are automatically subject to your life potentially being taken away as well, because that's just not fair. And when it comes to somebody's life, it should be an eye for an eye. That's how it should be, especially if you do it in a crime, in a crimely manner. Now I get it, like if you, I don't know, like if you were in a car accident, but it was more or less the weather. Like say you were driving down the highway and like a big bird smacked your windshield and it caused you to swerve, and then you hit a pedestrian and then you killed the pedestrian. Like in that case, those cases, not that they should be justified, but they could potentially be justified. Those cases are maybe more lenient because you really can't, you almost can't control that. I mean, whether you're a great driver or not. But in the cases like this, where somebody deliberately, takes a gun and goes into his former high school and just lights it up and shoots as many people as he can. These are the type of incidents where there's more than enough evidence to prove him guilty. In this, and honestly, killing him's not even enough. Like giving him the death penalty honestly is enough, because that's only one life when he took away 17. So I mean, in my opinion, I think he deserves a death penalty 100%. Whether he tries to play it off that he's so mentally fucked up he didn't know what he was doing, he deserves the death penalty regardless. That's just the end of that. At least in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why there are so many school shootings going on, because if you think about it, like, I guess I think the biggest first one was Columbine. I think that was back in the early 2000s. But I think before that, there really wasn't that many mass murders. There really wasn't, I'm pretty sure in the 60s and 70s and the 80s, there really wasn't, that big of a swing. And then late 90s, 2000s, and then clearly nowadays it's it's almost like the go-to, if you have a problem with a business or a fucking school or the post office, you just go and you shoot it up. And then that's how people are trying to prove a point nowadays, which sparks the debate about the whole gun control issue, which in my opinion, when I go into these political, I would say I'm neither, I don't know. I try to go into politics with no bias toward anything, at least to start. And then depending on the evidence of either side, then I usually choose my side. And so that's what I did. And I actually did a presentation the other day on this, about gun control, because I had to write like an 8-page paper on gun control. And originally my teacher told me that I couldn't do it. And she didn't give me a legitimate reason why. She just said that topic was vetoed after I wrote the paper. So to start, I already was getting shit on after I wrote my paper, telling me that I couldn't, do this topic. She vetoed it because she personally didn't like it. And that was a big shit show. I had to go to the dean of students, and eventually we got it sorted out. And the teacher, me and the teacher are good and all. I actually have like a 112 in her class, because I asked her. She let me do extra credit. So me and her are straight. But yeah, what was I talking about? Oh, the whole gun control thing. Yeah. So when I went into this, because I had to do a lot of research on it, because I obviously had a long ass presentation to do on it. I tried to go in with no bias, toward either side, until I did my research, and then I clearly leaned toward one side. And so pretty much my presentation started off by just saying, some points about some good points that the pro Second Amendment people like, and then some good points about the what the anti Second Amendment people like, or have. And I kind of, after doing research on both of them, so like one of the common arguments for anti-Second Amendment people is, if there's no guns, there's no crime. And I was, that sounds great on paper. That sounds awesome on paper. You know what I'm saying? It sounds awesome on paper. Just like a football play, some trick play sounds awesome on paper, but one little thing or one player doesn't do what he's doing, and the whole thing gets fucked up. And that's what you have, unfortunately, with guns. We have people who respect the laws, and we have people who don't, and the people who don't are ruining it for the people who do. But anyway, no guns, no crime. I was like, oh yeah, this is a great point. This clearly seems, legit. Like, obviously, if there's no guns, nobody can shoot anybody. So I looked into it, and I kind of knew a little bit before, but the cities obviously with the biggest, most homicides and murder rates, a few of them are Chicago is one of the top ones. Los Angeles is one of the top ones, I think. Detroit, Oakland. These are all states where it's extremely hard to get guns. Like Illinois you can't bring a gun from any other state legally to Illinois, I believe. And they have extremely hard gun laws. Same with California. They're, I think, the highest or the hardest to get a gun. Yeah, so same with California, and then in Detroit's kind of similar. And so so that didn't really make sense. These states that claim that they have these really hard gun laws have the most crime. How does that work? So that threw me off, and then I did some more research, and I started thinking, I'm like, it's almost reverse, because when you think about the safest states, or at least the states that have the highest gun per person numbers, which are going to be Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, those three states are the top safest states in the country. And I think Ben Shapiro talked about this once, where you have these states that are extremely hard on guns or whatever. They don't want people to have guns. They have high crime. You have states like Vermont, New Hampshire, whatever. And these people have a shit ton of guns. And coming from Vermont, I could tell you, everybody in my school, most people in my school had at least 3 or 4 guns. And I went to like a D2 Division 2 school, so my school wasn't tiny and it wasn't huge. And mostly everybody in the state, at least all of my friends, have access to a gun. Yet we don't have mass shootings. We don't have a lot of crime. Why is that? You know what I'm saying? We don't have, and we just passed a bunch of laws, I think, to make it harder to get some of these types of guns. But we have most of the highest, like I'm saying, we have the most, like one of the highest guns per person ratio, and we don't have all these things happening. So why is it? It just didn't line up to me. So that argument I proved to be wrong on the anti side. And then the biggest one that I found, and I was most shocked about actually, was the common argument that that the antis like to make, that say that we have 30,000 gun-related deaths per year. And unfortunately, we're never really told what that 30,000 consists of. And I certainly wasn't told. But yeah, it's a common argument for antis to make. So I did research, and I found out what those 30,000 gun-related deaths per year consist of. And I was surprised. So let me riddle you off some numbers that I was actually able to find. Okay. First of all, 30,000 people is a 0.000000952% of the population. So it really doesn't, statistically speaking, it doesn't have any significance. It doesn't really hold water. Granted, 1 is too many, sure, you could argue that. But when it's that minuscule of a number, you can't base that tiny ass number, that tiny ass percent, and say, look, we have this extremely small percentage, but we're going to take them away for everybody to hope to make that go down. Well, you look into it a little bit more, and it actually turns out that 65% of those are by suicide. Clearly, we all know you can commit suicide a lot of ways. There's a lot of people who commit suicide every day. There's a lot of different ways to commit suicide. So gun control really wouldn't solve suicide. You can't solve suicide because you can kill yourself anyway. You know what I'm saying? And from somebody who's had a family member kill themselves and a former football member kill himself, that I wasn't really friends with him, but just being around a few suicides, I know that you can't fix it by just taking away a gun. That's not, because you can literally kill yourself like with your own hands. So 65% of those are suicide, which is a big percentage. But then when you break it down even more, it narrows it down. 15% of them are law enforcement in the line of duty and usually justified. Granted, there are some incidents that are, you can call them, racists or, whatever, incidents that they're not justified. But usually when those incidents come around, the officer, if it's not justified, gets fired and gets some type of penalty, like they go to jail or whatever. And then 17% of them are criminal activity, which we all know that's not going to solve shit because, drugs are illegal, but criminals will always have drugs, okay? And then 3% are accidental discharge deaths, which I think that 3% could be fixed with just a little bit of education. So after those numbers, it turns out that 30,000 goes down to 5,100. Okay? And so that's such a minuscule number compared to 330 million people. But then it gets better. And it's crazy. It gets better, okay? Listen to this. Those 51 deaths come from Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, and Washington. Okay? Which means all of those crimes, gun-related crimes, come from the cities that have the highest gun control. So after reading this and actually looking at the statistics, I was extremely shocked. I was extremely shocked to see this. And I think this is important for people to know. Look, I went into this having no bias. I wanted to be fair to both parties. But I just wanted to look into it and see kind of what goes on. And it shocked me to see that this number really breaks down like this. And so I talked about that in my presentation, and I didn't really even want to talk about gun control because I just don't want to offend anybody, really. I know people have different political views than me, which is completely fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I wanted to make sure that I really didn't want to offend anybody, so I really didn't really want to do this, but I just did it anyway because I didn't want to fail the class. Or not fail the class, but, get a 0 on the presentation or whatever. But yeah, so that was an eye-opener for me. That was a big eye-opener for me. So I guess when it comes to gun control, I have more of a conservative view on it, I guess. I have more of a, I guess more of a pro-Second Amendment type of view. But that's just how the statistics narrow down. And I get it. It does sound good that no guns, no violence. But if you looked into it, spent a little bit of time, you would realize that it really doesn't break down like that. Just not how it works. I don't really know why, but that's just not how it works. But yeah, I had that, and I had another presentation too, actually. It was a class or a presentation on my family and like my cultural background. And I like these presentations because a lot of people, at least down here, don't come from where the types of area that I'm originally from. And so I was able to create a presentation about my family and like where I came from. And if you don't know already, I think I've talked about it a lot in my other podcast, but I'm from a really small town in Vermont, and I had to talk about like my cultural background, and I said that I pretty much have like a small town culture or a small town background or identity, and when I explained what that means is like we have the same values, or we have these specific values in these small towns that you really don't get in like a city. And what I mean by that is like some of the values that we have are like, respect others, don't like discriminate. Word of mouth spreads really quickly in small towns. So usually just keeping your mouth shut and respecting everybody is the best way to go about it. And so those are some of the values that I take from my small town environment that I grew up in. And I talked about that, and you don't get those in cities. Like in cities, you could disrespect somebody and you won't see them again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like cities are that big where you don't see people very often. But in a small town, you call one, black person a name or something. Not that you should, absolutely not. But if you are racist, then the whole town knows that you're racist, and you nobody likes you. Or you could even say like if you bully somebody at school, anybody, and you are then tagged as a bully, and every family knows that you're a bully, and they know where you live, and so that's it just didn't happen that much. Like it's just a little bit different, obviously, from a city. And that's pretty much what I explained in my presentation. But yeah, that was I don't mind presenting. I think if it's a presentation on something that I like, then I love presenting. But when it's on something that I don't really want to talk about, or that I don't really like, then I don't want to present. Like I just don't care. I don't want to present or anything. But it was, I don't know. It was, yeah. I don't know. It's a crazy world out there. A lot of different types of people in the world. A lot of different types of cultures, and I like that about the world. That like we're not just like a bunch of clones. We all have like our own personal identity, and like we all have a little piece of where we came from, and that kind of like shapes us as a person. And I think that's special. And sometimes you don't. It's hard to look for that like one thing that makes you different or makes you unique. But if you eventually look, you'll find like that one thing that makes you different. Whether that's the values that you have in your hometown, like me, where you don't get in a city. You don't get that. You don't get those close community environments in a city. You just don't. I mean, you don't, because there's just too many people. And a lot of people like that. They don't like, being part of it in a community necessarily, or that close of a community. They just don't like it. But I don't know. Clock's ticking down, moving to New York City shortly. I think we got 2 months left. School is coming down to a close. I leave next week. I'm going to this cool event. Maybe some of you guys might be going there too. Gary Vaynerchuk's talking in Fort Lauderdale on May 2nd, and I bought a ticket, and so I'm gonna go to that. I think a few other people are talking as well. It's gonna be cool, man. It's gonna be cool. I'm excited. I want to know what he has to say. Some people think he's just full of shit. Other people think he's a good businessman. I don't really know him that much. I see him a lot on social media. He's a good talker. He's a millionaire. A lot of times what I can see or what I can tell is that he puts his money where his mouth is usually. And he'll be a man of his word. From what I can see. I don't know him personally. I've never met him, but seems like a good guy. And yeah, I'm excited for that. I wonder if any of you guys are going to it. But what else has been going on, man? What else? This world is going on. There's stuff going on every day. There's stuff going on. For me though, it's such like that's one thing that sucks about school. Like nothing changes. Like it feels like I'm stuck in the mud almost, where like I'm not doing anything productive, I guess. Like, you guys know that I'm in a big heap and holler with my work right now, which I might be putting my 2 weeks in this upcoming weekend. But you guys know that I'm in this big heap and stuff, and it just doesn't feel like I'm moving forward as a person, and it doesn't feel like I'm going up. It feels like I'm either stuck in the mud or almost going down, and I don't like that. So with starting this business with my brother that we're starting, I'm hoping that I can change it and really find some traction and just run with it and just run straight up, and hopefully that'll be beneficial. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. But one thing that I don't like to shy away from, is fear. I don't like to let fear dictate decisions in my life. And and I found that, and this is another thing that came from being in this small town. You oftentimes need to do everything that you don't want to do to get the stuff that you want to get. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to wake up and do the shit that you don't want to do, because one day it's going to be the stuff that you do want to do. It's hard to explain, but I try to not let fear dictate what I do. And what I mean when I said it goes into a small town is, there's a lesson that I always learned one of the very first lessons I always learned was when I would go hunting with my brother and my dad. And my dad had to work during the week, and me and my brother are what are we? We are, what was the word I was just gonna say? We are relentless hunters, I guess. We have our mind focused on hunting probably 8 months out of the year. And we just can't get our minds off it. We want to succeed. One thing that me and my brother do differently than anybody in our family is we make things competitive because that's what drives us to be better. So in my hometown, let me get back to why I don't let fear dictate my decisions. The story that I was going with was the biggest lesson I learned was not letting fear dictate my decisions. And how I learned this was because when my dad was at work during the week, and me and my brother, we wanted to find new places to go hunting. And it really started when we were 15. We would ride our bikes miles to go to hunting spots to scout. And then when we first got our car and I got my license, we then were able to go other places. And I would always find when you're asking people for permission, we always ask people permission by knocking on their door and asking them permission. And I was so scared to do this all the time. Like, it is just nerve-wracking to go up to somebody's door. I don't know what about it, but it's just nerve-wracking. And my brother would always be like, come on, let's go. We can do it. And I would always tell him when I was scared, and then I would always tell him the same when he was scared. And so being able to go up together, we just didn't let fear get in the way of us asking permission. We were able to get permission at a lot of places. That's why we were very successful in hunting, because we were able to get permission where a lot of people wouldn't ask permission, or in places where, I don't know, we're just able, because we asked permission, we were able to be successful, and we killed lots of deer off of private land. And that's, in my opinion, that was like one of the first events that really changed my mind into thinking, not letting fear dictate my decisions, which is a big life lesson that I learned early on. And I try to make that a point in my life, or like a goal. Like, don't let fear dictate your decisions. So I think that's a valuable lesson for anybody. Don't let fear change what you want to think. But I was saying something else. What the hell was I saying? I was talking about like hunting and stuff with my brother. I don't remember what I was saying. That's annoying. Oh, competition. Where I was saying how it was such a competition, and how we take everything as a competition. And this could be good, but this could also be bad. But we had a competition with everybody, but they just never knew directly that we had a competition with them. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for example, I'm gonna relate it to hunting, because that was, we had competitions with everybody when we were playing sports, or we were doing this or that and the third. And now our main competition is making money. We want to be the richest people in our graduating class, regardless. But anyway, when it relates to hunting, we are so competitive that we wanted our family to shoot the most deer while we were like in high school. And we shot the most legal deer, because there was one family in particular that didn't really shoot all their deer legally. But we were the family, and granted, if anybody's in my class and they think that they got these fucking big numbers, you can go ahead and message me. You know who I am. But in my graduating class, was only like, my high school. We wanted to be the family that shot the most deer in the whole high school. And we were. There was no family out there that shot. There was one family that did some illegal shit, and they shot more deer, but there wasn't a family that only hunted legally like we did and shot more deer than we did. And that still doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? like if you wanted to tally up the numbers, at least by myself, I've shot in 10 deer within the last 10 years. I shot a deer every year, which in Vermont is extremely hard. The average number, it takes a hunter in Vermont 10 years to kill a deer. That's how hard it is to hunt in Vermont. And I've killed a deer every year, or I have a deer killed every year that I've hunted. Actually, I think I've shot an 11 in 10 years. I have a list back home, and my brother shot in like 4, I think 5 in the last 10 years. And my dad shot in, how many deer is that my dad shot? In the last 10 years, he's probably shot like 3. But anyway, we were so fucking competitive. Like if somebody shot a deer, because everybody would post like, oh, I shot a deer on Facebook, blah, 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 blah. If somebody shot a deer before we did and posted on Facebook, when we found out, we didn't care where we were. If we were not in the woods, we would immediately pull over and get in the woods, because you can't shoot a deer in your car. You need to get in the woods. So we would get in the woods, and we would not get out of the woods. We are that competitive where at the time we needed to kill more deer than anybody. I don't give a shit. We didn't do anything illegal either, which is the awesome part. Like that just proves that you don't have to be illegal to fucking shoot a lot of deer. You just have to put some work in. And so the reason why we were so successful is because, granted, there might have been a few kids that scouted during the summer, but we scouted we didn't give a shit. We asked everybody and their uncle for permission, because we knew that public land, although we have killed deer off of public land, it usually gets hunted out by rifle, and we don't want that. We'd rather hunt private, especially if we have access to private. So we would go door to door to door to door to door and ask everybody for permission. And a lot of people say no. And you have to kind of take that on the chin. But the very few people who say yes, those are often the lands that we get the most deer out of. And so we would scout, we would ask permission, and we would do all the work that a lot of people don't want to do. But that's also why we shot the most deer in our family, or in our school. But there's just like little things like that we're just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's our genetics or whatever, but we're just extremely competitive. And we're even trying to one up each other. I mean, and the best thing about one-upping each other is, like, if I try to one-up my dad, we all win, because I don't care if my dad shoots a deer. I don't care if my brother shoots a deer. But as long as my family, or even my grandparents, or one of my grandfathers that hunts with us sometimes, as long as our family shoots a deer, I am extremely happy. Like, I remember when my brother shot his first buck, it was a 3-pointer. It weighed like 20 pounds maybe. Small little 3-pointer. I think he was, I want to say 17, and I hugged him, and I was probably more excited than he was, to be honest. I mean, we were both jumping and screaming, and like, it was just an awesome moment. I remember exactly where it was. I remember exactly what time of day it was. It was in the morning, and the best thing, one of the things that I do like about hunting, though, you don't get them very often, but when we all hunt in the same area. So, like, it's not like me, my dad, and my brother, we hunt, like, he'll drop me off on this road, or on down, like, he won't drop me off on this road, and then he'll go to this road, and my brother will go to this road. We just pick stand locations within a big area, and then we all go in usually from the same point. And the reason why that's good is because then you're canceling out the whole land. And it works so well if you know that there's deer there, because one of you 3 should get a deer. But one of the things that I really like when we're rifle hunting is when I'm just so quiet in the woods, and you're sitting there and you're waiting or whatever, and you hear boom, and you just know that it's one of the boys, either my brother or my dad or my grandfather, whoever it is. You just know somebody shot one or shot at one, and it scares the shit out of you, because it's usually pretty close. But I remember that day, because it scared the shit out of me, because I'm just sitting there, and then it's just boom, and And so I went over there and we retrieved this deer. But yeah, those are some good memories. I'll talk about more of this stuff probably in my other podcasts and stuff. But I hope everybody has a wonderful week. It's Thursday, man. Just rough it out till the weekend if you want. I guess you kind of have to, but please share this. I really encourage you guys to share it. And like it and comment what you want to hear. If you have an awesome, interesting story, just email me at joe.beaupre98@gmail.com. That's joe.beaupre 98@gmail.com. I want to hear your story, and maybe if you're in the area, or maybe we could do a phone call and you can join the podcast. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll either see you tomorrow or Saturday. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. I hope everybody's doing good out there. I hope this podcast found you in a good mood and a good state, whether you're in your car on your way to work, or you're on your way home, or you're laying in bed, whatever it is. I hope this podcast found you good, and I think I'm gonna upload these to iTunes shortly. I said at my 10th podcast I'm going to upload them to iTunes, and I'm going to stand by that. I think today is my 9th, so we have one more, and we'll try to get them on iTunes. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Take care and enjoy your Thursday night. Take care, everybody.